This is Max and Mia podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Max and Mia podcast. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Rachel. Now, if you're wondering where Max and Mia are today, well, it's just the two of us this time around.
That's right. We'll be hanging out with you every Wednesday, so make sure to tune in. And today we have a really good one for you. But first, Rachel, could I ask you something?
Go ahead.
So yesterday, I picked up some takeout food, right? The guy hands me the bag, smiles, and says, "Enjoy your meal." And without even thinking, I yelled, "Thanks, you too."
The classic you too. Did you run away?
I practically sprinted to my car. I told the guy to enjoy his own food. Why do our brains do that? They just short circuit when we have to make quick, casual conversation.
I completely get it. It happens to native speakers all the time. But when you're speaking English as a second language, you replay that mistake in your head all day.
Right. You just want to have a normal, smooth interaction without sounding like a robot.
And that's actually what we're talking about today. Small talk. Those short, everyday conversations that seem simple but can feel really tricky.
Whether it's at a coffee shop, in an elevator, or with someone you just met, small talk is everywhere. And today, we're going to help you feel a lot more comfortable with it.
Let's get into it. Okay, so small talk. Let's start from the beginning because I think a lot of people hear that word and already feel a little anxious.
Honestly, same. Or at least I used to.
Right. So what actually is small talk, like in simple terms?
So, small talk is basically light conversation. Not deep, not personal. You're not talking about your biggest fears or your life problems. It's more like the conversation you have while you wait for the elevator, or when you run into a neighbor, or when you sit next to someone on a bus.
Exactly. It's surface level, but it's not meaningless. That's the thing people get wrong. Small talk serves a purpose.
What do you mean?
Well, it's how we show that we're friendly, that we're approachable. In English-speaking cultures especially, if someone smiles at you and you just stare back and say nothing, that's a bit strange.
Yeah, that's happened to me, actually. I was in London for a work trip, and I walked into a little shop. The guy behind the counter said, "All right?" And I just nodded, like a robot. And he looked at me like I had two heads.
Because all right in British English is basically a greeting. It's not really a question.
Which I didn't know at the time. So that brings up something important. Small talk is also cultural. The rules are not the same everywhere.
Totally, but we'll get to that in a bit. First, let's talk about the fear, because I know a lot of our listeners feel it.
Oh, absolutely. And look, it's normal. In a foreign language, you have this extra layer of pressure. You're thinking about vocabulary, about grammar, about pronunciation, and now someone wants to chat about the weather?
And your brain just shuts down.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Small talk is actually one of the easiest conversations you can have in English because the topics are predictable. They almost always come from a short list.
Right. So let's go through that list. What do people actually talk about?
Weather is the big one, especially in the UK. It's almost a sport there.
It really is. But it works everywhere, honestly. It's freezing today, isn't it? Or finally some sun, right? It's low risk, it's easy, and almost anyone can relate.
Then you've got weekend plans. Have any plans for the weekend? Or how was your weekend? Those are classics.
Work or school, but very lightly. You're not getting into salaries or complaints about your boss. More like busy week or how's work going?
Food is a great one, especially if you're at an event or near a restaurant. Have you tried that place around the corner? Easy, fun, no pressure.
And local things, like news about the city, a new coffee shop that opened, something that happened nearby. Those are great because they give you something in common automatically.
You know, Rachel, what if we pick a topic to show an example to the listeners? Sound good?
Yes. How about the weekend plans topic? Let's say we just bumped into each other waiting for the elevator.
Perfect. I'll start. Hey, Rachel. Happy Friday. Any big plans for the weekend?
Hey, not really. Probably just relaxing at home and watching a movie. How about you?
I'm actually going to try that new Italian place downtown.
Oh, I've heard good things about it. Enjoy your dinner.
Thanks. Here's our elevator.
And that's it. Short, polite, and completely painless.
Exactly. It's just a quick interaction to break the ice before moving on with your day. Now, what about the things you should avoid?
Oh, good call. So in most English-speaking cultures, there are a few topics that are considered too personal or too heavy for small talk. Politics is one. Religion is another.
Money, definitely. You don't ask someone how much they earn or how much their apartment costs. That would be pretty uncomfortable.
Age, sometimes, especially with people you don't know well.
Right. Now, let's talk about actually doing it, because knowing the topics is one thing, starting the conversation is another.
The hardest part is usually the first sentence. Once you're in, it flows. But that first line?
So one thing that really helps is what I call observe and comment. You just say something about what's happening around you. You don't need to think of something clever or original.
Give an example.
Okay, you're waiting in line at a coffee shop and it's taking forever. You look at the person next to you and say, "This line is crazy today, huh?" That's it. That's the whole opener.
And 9 times out of 10, the other person will agree and say something back, and suddenly you're talking.
9 times out of 10. Let's be real. Sometimes people just smile and look at their phone.
True, and that's okay. You tried. Not every attempt leads to a conversation, and that's completely normal. The key is to not take it personally.
And not to overthink it. Small talk is not a test. Nobody is grading you.
Okay, so now let's look at some phrases, because having a few ready in your head makes everything easier. And I mean phrases beyond just hello or how are you.
Right, because how are you is almost a bit automatic at this point. People say it and don't really expect a real answer.
Exactly. So instead of how are you, you might hear how's it going or how are things. They're a bit more casual, a bit warmer.
And when someone asks you that, instead of just saying, "Fine, thanks," you can say something like, "Not bad, actually," or "Pretty good, can't complain."
Oh, can't complain. That's a good one. Let's stop there for a second because it's a useful expression. When you say can't complain, it means things are okay. Not amazing, not terrible. It's a relaxed, honest answer. Native speakers use it all the time.
It's also a bit humble, like you're not bragging, you're just saying life is decent.
Right. Another one I really like is tell me about it. Now, this one is interesting because it doesn't mean please explain it to me. It actually means the opposite.
Yes, it means I completely agree. I know exactly what you mean. So if someone says, "Ugh, traffic was awful today," you can say, "Tell me about it," and they'll know you feel the same way.
So if you use it literally, like as a real question, it sounds a bit off.
A bit robotic, yeah. Context is everything with these expressions.
Another really common one is that makes 2 of us. It means me too, but it sounds more natural in conversation, more connected.
Like if someone says, "I can never wake up early," you can say, "That makes 2 of us." And immediately there's this little moment of connection.
Which is exactly what small talk is for, by the way. Connection. Even small, brief connection.
Okay, and one more phrase I want to mention because I think it trips people up. What's up?
Classic.
So what's up is informal, very casual. It's a greeting more than a real question. The normal answer is not, "Well, this morning I woke up at 7 and no." The normal answer is something short, like "Not much, you?" Or "Just got here, how about you?"
Yeah, if you give a full answer to what's up, people will look at you a little confused.
It's one of those things where the literal meaning and the actual meaning are very different.
Okay, so we've talked about topics, we've talked about phrases. Let's talk about something that I find really interesting, which is how small talk changes depending on the culture. because this is something that can really help you understand why some conversations feel natural and others feel awkward.
Yes, so broadly speaking, in countries like the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, small talk is expected. It's part of daily social interaction. People chat with strangers at the bus stop, at the gym, at the supermarket checkout. It's totally normal.
And if you don't do it, or if you seem very closed off, people might think you're unfriendly, even if you're just shy or tired.
Whereas in other cultures, like in a lot of parts of Europe or Asia, there's less of that expectation with strangers. Silence isn't necessarily rude, it's just neutral.
So, if you're learning English and you come from a culture where you don't usually talk to strangers, this can feel really unnatural at first.
It's not about being fake either. I think some people worry that small talk is just empty, performative.
I felt that too, honestly. Like, do I really care about the weather?
But I think the point is not the topic. The point is the signal. You're telling the other person, I see you, I'm friendly, this is a safe interaction.
That's a really good way to put it. It's a social signal more than a real exchange of information.
And once you think of it that way, it stops feeling fake. You're just being a decent human being.
Exactly. And in English, being able to do that, even just a little, opens a lot of doors. In job interviews, at networking events, meeting your partner's family for the first time.
Oh, that last one is stressful enough without the language barrier.
Right? But small talk helps. It really does.
One more cultural thing worth mentioning, compliments. In American English especially, complimenting someone you just met is very common and very normal. I love your jacket. That's a great bag. It sounds over the top if you're not used to it, but it's genuine.
And the response is usually just, thank you so much, not, oh no, this old thing, which is more of a British reflex.
Very different styles.
But both are valid. You just need to know the context you're in. Okay, so now we want to do something a little different. We're going to put you to work.
Don't worry, it's nothing scary. We're going to ask you 4 questions, real small talk questions, the kind you might hear any day of the week.
And what we want you to do is pause the episode, actually think about how you would answer, say it out loud if you can, because that's where the real practice happens.
Then come back and we'll tell you how we would answer, and maybe a few things that are better to avoid.
Ready? Here we go.
Okay, first question. Imagine you're at work or at school or waiting somewhere with someone you know a little but not very well. Monday morning. They look at you and say,
How was your weekend? Go ahead. Pause, think, answer out loud. We'll be here. Okay, welcome back. So how did it go?
So for this one, I would probably say something like, pretty good, actually. I didn't do much, just stayed in and watched a couple of movies. Pretty low key. How about you?
And that's great because it's honest, it's relaxed, and you bounce it back. That last part is key. How about you? It keeps the conversation going. You're not just closing it.
Right. Small talk is a bit like a game of catch. You catch the ball, you throw it back. You don't just hold it.
Exactly. Now, what to avoid here? One thing I see a lot is the one-word answer. Someone asks, how was your weekend? And the person just says, good. Full stop. Nothing else.
And then there's this awkward silence, and the other person has to try again.
It's not rude, but it makes things hard. Give a little something. Even one sentence. Good, it went by too fast, though. That's already better.
Also, avoid being too negative right away. If your weekend was genuinely terrible, you don't have to lie. But it was awful, my dog got sick and I had to cancel everything is a lot for a Monday morning opener.
A bit heavy for small talk, yeah. You can say, honestly, not the best, but I'm here, and leave it light. That's enough.
Okay, question 2. This one follows naturally from the first. Let's say the conversation is going well. The other person smiles and asks,
Any plans for this weekend?
pause it, think it through. What would you say? All right, so for this one, I'd probably go with something like, yeah, actually, a friend and I are thinking of checking out this new restaurant downtown. Nothing crazy, but I've been wanting to try it for a while.
Love that. It's specific enough to be interesting but not overwhelming. And nothing crazy is a nice little phrase that keeps the tone light. It signals that you're not bragging, you're just sharing.
What would you say, Rachel?
Honestly, I'd probably go with something like, not much planned yet. I might just take it easy. I've had a pretty busy week. And that's totally fine too. You don't need exciting plans to have a good answer.
Right. Take it easy is a great phrasal verb for this, by the way. It means to relax, to have a calm time. Very natural and casual conversation.
What to avoid here? Don't say, I don't know, and nothing else. Even if you genuinely have no plans, add something. I don't know yet. Probably just rest. I need it. That's real, it's relatable, and it invites the other person to respond.
Also, don't list your entire schedule. If someone asks about your weekend and you give them an hour-by-hour breakdown, it's a bit much.
Yeah, small talk is not a calendar review.
Question 3. You mentioned the restaurant, right? And now the other person is curious. They lean in a little and ask, "Oh, nice. Do you know any good spots around here?"
Pause it, think, go.
Okay, so this one is fun because it opens up a topic that almost everyone has an opinion on. Food, places, the city. I would say something like, yes, actually. There's this little place on 5th Street. I think it's called Maro or something like that. Really good pasta. Have you been?
And again, you end with a question. You pass the ball back.
Exactly. And I think it's called is a useful little phrase when you're not totally sure of something. It sounds natural and honest.
I might also say something like, honestly, I'm still figuring out the area, but I heard there's a great market on Sundays. Have you checked it out? So even if I don't have a recommendation, I can still contribute something.
That's a good point. You don't have to be an expert. You can share what you've heard, what you've seen, what you're curious about. That counts too.
What to avoid? Don't say, I don't really go out much, and stop there. Even if it's true, it shuts the conversation completely. Instead, redirect. I don't go out that often, but I do love a good coffee shop. Do you have a favorite?
Keep it alive. That's the whole game. Okay, last one. The conversation has been going well. You've been talking about the area, about places, about the city. And then the other person asks something a little more personal, but still totally fine for small talk. Have you lived here long? Pause. Give it a go. All right, so this is a great question because it naturally leads to a little story. I would say something like, about 2 years now. I moved here for work and kind of just stayed. Ended up liking it more than I expected.
And that's perfect. It's personal, but not too personal. It gives a little context, a little warmth, and ended up is a really useful phrasal verb here. It means that's how things turned out, maybe without planning it.
Tell me, Rachel, what about you?
I'd probably say, yeah, I grew up here actually, so my whole life, basically. Though sometimes I feel like a tourist because there are still so many places I haven't been.
That's such a relatable thing to say, and it's honest, which makes it interesting.
And it invites a follow-up, too. The other person might say, oh, really? Like where? And off you go.
What to avoid on this one? Just the very short answer. 2 years. Okay, and give the other person something to work with. You don't have to write a novel, but a little detail goes a long way.
Also, this is still small talk, so maybe don't go into why you had to leave your hometown or how the move was really difficult or complicated family stuff. Save that for when you actually know the person.
There's a time for deep conversations. Small talk is not that time.
Not yet, anyway.
Okay, so I just looked at the time and we are moving. This episode went fast.
It really did. We still have one more thing we want to do before we wrap up, but before that, real quick,
If this episode was useful for you, if you learned something, if you're going to try at least one of these phrases this week, please subscribe, leave us a review if you can. It genuinely helps more people find the podcast.
And we're here every Wednesday, so if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next one. Okay, done. Moving on.
That was painless.
Very. All right, so to close out today, we want to do something that I think is really eye-opening. We're going to compare levels.
Right, because there's a big difference between what a beginner might say and what someone at an intermediate level or native speaker would say.
And I want to be clear, the beginner version is not wrong, it's just limited.
Exactly. It gets the message across, but it can sound a little stiff, a little textbook. And the goal is to sound more natural, more human. So let's go through a few examples. Okay, so someone says, "How are you?" Super common. You hear it 10 times a day. A beginner might say,
I am fine, thank you.
which is correct, grammatically, totally fine. But
It sounds like you learned it from a phrase book. Nobody really talks like that in a natural conversation.
so what would an intermediate speaker or a native say instead?
Something like, pretty good actually. A little tired, but can't complain. You? Or even just, not bad. Honestly, just happy it's Wednesday. How about you?
And notice what's happening there. It's a bit more specific, a bit more personal, and it always ends with something that brings the other person in. That's the move.
Can't complain, we already talked about, but happy it's Wednesday is also a nice touch because it's relatable. People always have feelings about what day of the week it is. Okay, this one comes up a lot. Someone asks you something and you're not sure. A beginner usually goes straight to
I don't know.
done, end of sentence. And again, it's not wrong, but it closes the door.
So instead, you could say, honestly, no idea, but I think it might be around the corner somewhere. Or, I'm not totally sure. I'd have to check.
I'd have to check is great because it sounds responsible and thoughtful, not just a wall.
Or another option, your guess is as good as mine. That's a really common expression that means I have no idea either. We're in the same boat.
Oh, and we're in the same boat is also one worth noting. It means two people are in the same situation. So if someone says, I have no idea how to get there, you can say, yeah, we're in the same boat. I just got here.
Instant connection, right there. Okay, example 3. This one is so important. Knowing how to exit a small talk conversation gracefully is a skill on its own. A beginner might say,
I have to go now. Goodbye.
which is honest but a little abrupt.
Yeah, it sounds like you're leaving forever.
So instead, something like, anyway, I should get going. It was really nice chatting. Or, I'll let you get back to it. Good talking to you.
I'll let you get back to it is a classic. It's polite, it's warm, and it kind of does the other person a favor. You're giving them an easy exit, too.
And good talking to you is just always a solid close. Simple, genuine, leaves a good impression.
Which, by the way, is the whole point of small talk. Leave a good impression, even in 2 minutes. Last one. Someone says something and you agree. Beginner version,
Yes, I agree. Or me too.
which works, but it can feel flat if you use it every time.
So instead, mix it up. Totally. Absolutely. Right? I know, right? Tell me about it. That makes 2 of us. Couldn't agree more.
All of those mean basically the same thing, but they each have a slightly different energy. I know, right? Is very casual, very friendly. Couldn't agree more is a bit more emphatic, a bit stronger.
And mixing them up makes you sound so much more natural because real speakers don't say, I agree every single time. They rotate.
That's actually a good tip in general. Don't rely on one phrase for everything. The more variety you have, the more confident you sound.
Even if you make a small mistake here and there, variety plus confidence beats perfect, but robotic, every time.
Every time.
Okay, so before we go, let's do a quick recap of everything we covered today, because there was a lot.
There really was. So, small talk, what it is, why it matters, and how to actually do it without freezing up.
We talked about the topics that work: weather, weekend plans, food, local things, and the ones to stay away from, at least until you know someone better: politics, religion, money.
We talked about how to start a conversation with the observe and comment approach. You don't need something clever, you just need something true.
We went through some really useful expressions. Can't complain. Tell me about it. That makes two of us. I'll let you get back to it. These are the kinds of phrases that make you sound natural, not just correct.
We did a little exercise with 4 questions, which I hope you actually paused and tried, because saying it out loud is where it clicks.
And we finished with the level contrast: beginner versus intermediate. And the big takeaway there is variety. Don't rely on the same 3 phrases. Mix it up, and you'll sound a lot more confident even before your grammar is perfect.
Which it doesn't have to be, by the way. Perfect grammar with 0 personality gets you nowhere in a real conversation.
Harsh, but true. The goal is connection. That's it. And small talk, as simple as it sounds, is one of the most powerful tools you have for that.
So this week, try it. One small talk moment at the coffee shop, at work, wherever. Just one, and see what happens.
You might be surprised. All right, that's it from us today. Thank you so much for listening. It really does mean a lot.
We'll be back next Wednesday with something new. Until then, take care of yourselves.
And keep practicing. Bye.
See you Wednesday.